Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures at Outperform. I'm Frank Wander and I'm here with my wonderful co-host Terri Mays. Today we're going to be covering the needy personality. If you've been tuning into this series on unproductive people, I hope you've been enjoying it. We have the needy personality this week. Next week we're doing the hero. And you should definitely go back and look at the narcissist, the low empathy leader, and the other shows we've done in this series. They're really, really interesting. So, what is a needy person? Well, number one, they're annoying. Needy people get really annoying in the workplace. Um, but what creates a needy person? Well, these people lack confidence. They may lack competencies in the things they need to do, or they may be missing basic aptitudes that are needed to do the type of work they have to do. And I remember one person could never get the picture we were talking about years ago. They just lacked any ability to do abstraction at all. And we're always checking in later. We'll talk about that more. But these people are there. They need you. They're constantly taking your time, other people's time, and they don't quite get it, right, Tara?
Yes, that's right. These are people, we're not talking about, the average person that when you're starting a new position or if you've been around for a while and you just need a little bit of support. Everybody is in need of support at some phase during their career. You have to ask questions in order to learn and grow. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about those folks that have an excessive need. It's to the point where you're like, oh my goodness, you have to be able to figure some things out for yourself. Nobody is going to be able to give you all of the points, all of the fine details. Some things you really do have to just learn and explore and just take some chances. Try to figure it out. If you're wrong, it's okay. You learn something in the process. Don't be so afraid of failure that you turn into one of those needy people that has to have every detail laid out for them. Just
Mhm.
they cannot make decisions on their own, no matter how simple it is, even if it's something like where do you eat for lunch? And they're constantly
Yeah.
just
What's the best thing to order? Yeah.
yeah, just it's never ending. They're never able to just make decisions. They can't do things for themselves without checking in, that constant checking in. I just want to check in and make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. Okay, I just needed to talk to you for a few minutes. All of those things are just signs that that person is a little bit too needy, too dependent.
Yeah. And, it's that lack of confidence just shines through. And as Terry said, they're often afraid to make a mistake. So they want to go in and say, hey, listen, I was thinking of doing XYZ. What do you think about that? You think that's going to work? Is that the way to go? So they're looking for that confirmation. I'm going over to talk to so and so. What's the best way to approach them? And look, anybody, like Terry says, can ask for help or guidance at times. That's okay. We all need guidance sometime. Everybody's got to go through an onboarding process where they'll have more questions than normal, but people get to the point where they're able to do most things on their own. They take some risk. They're willing to make a mistake and try something, knowing that they can easily take corrective action if, in fact, it doesn't work out. Those are not the people we're talking about. We're talking about the ones who incessantly have questions. There was an individual years ago, we'd go have these meetings. We'd sit there through, 45 minutes talking about how we're going to approach modifying this, solution we had, very large, lots of teams. The leaders from the teams get together, and this one individual, you'd have a couple of questions at that meeting. And I'm telling you, within 20 minutes of the end of that meeting, they'd be in my office door going, hey, I got a question for you. And they come back incessantly trying to figure out what happened at the meeting because they just couldn't grasp the material. And they were in the wrong job, really. They couldn't figure out stuff on their own. It took them forever. Eventually they would get there, but they were never crisp about it. They never had any certainty, and they were annoying as anything. People behind this individual's back used to, poke fun at them because it was just so obvious, and they were protected by somebody because people that bad don't really get to stay at that level and do that. But this individual did, and classic. I think of this individual immediately. They
Yeah.
really were bad.
Yeah, it's those people that exhaust your time. They are just there. They want to sit at your desk people come in your office and sit and sit and sit, and they have 1,000 questions. And even when you're as clear as you possibly can be, they still have more questions.
Oh,
It's
yeah, same
never,
question phrased a different way.
yes, it's never enough. It's always this extreme where they just really want you to sit there and handhold them while they do their job. They want you to step them through every single step in the process and be right there to support them and encourage them. It's like there's some part of them that never got that confirmation, that affirmation that they're doing well, that they are okay. And so now they look for it in everybody. They look for
Oh, yeah.
everybody to make them the center of attention. They want to just cling onto you for dear life. They don't want you to go. They just constantly make up new reasons to reach out. They always need your support, but
Yeah.
then they're never there to support anybody else. They don't seem to ever be able to help anybody else. They're always just, looking for what's in it for them. What can they get out of it?
Yeah, and I suspect, and certainly, this is not scientific, but when I encounter these people, it always seems to me that somebody was orchestrating their life for them, and now they're on their own, and they got to check in because they really didn't get that independence. They didn't do things succeed at them, so they started to build that confidence to go do things on their own, and they probably were never good enough. No matter what they did, it was probably never good. So they got to the habit of double checking what it was to make sure that what they did was going to be acceptable.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Sometimes that's probably where the confidence comes from.
Mhm.
Competence is a different issue, right? People are in roles they're not good at. They can't build those skills. And then there's those basic aptitudes that some people are just missing that become very important, especially as you move up a little.
Yeah.
And I've seen
You
that
gotta
many
have
times.
some confidence in yourself. And if you lack that confidence, that comes across to other people. And over time, if you're so needy, it begins to wear people out, and they get tired of having to deal with you, and so they'll start to avoid you. They really will stop answering your questions. They'll make excuses. They'll find ways to get you away from them because they really have just been exhausted from all of your coming back and forth. So you really have to ask yourself, if I am not able to make decisions, if I can't um, handle any work that's given to me without going back and asking 15 questions every single time. And then I have to check in constantly along the way. You really have to ask yourself, am I healthy? What's missing in my own level of confidence in my abilities that's causing me to actually have to go and get that from somebody else so that
Mhm.
now I can place blame when things go wrong and say, well, this is what you told me to do. That kind
Yeah,
of,
never my fault.
yeah, you've gotta be able to take responsibility and own your own work. So, if you have things that you don't know, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has things that they don't know, but you can't be so dependent on people that they can't get their work done because they're spending half the day answering your questions. So you really do have to do some self-examination to say, what's the behind this? What's the root cause? Why am I feeling like I have to have this check in every step of the way? Why can't I make a decision on my own? And that may require having a conversation with a trained professional or just surveying the people around you to ask, what do they think? Because you don't have to remain a needy person like this. You can really grow past that, but you have to really actively pursue that growth.
People can mature and outgrow it. And certainly, we would recommend solo. Just try doing it on your own. When you get that
Yeah.
urge to go check in or ask a question, don't do it. Just continue on. Stop thinking about getting help. You're caught in a loop. Sit down, relax, think about the problem you're trying to work on, and you'll get through it because I'm sure your brain is okay. It's just this need for confirmation. I've seen these people be codependent too. There was one guy years ago, one of the companies I worked for, who was constantly going to this other person who seemed to like it. They loved that role of being the expert and having this person come around. And it was strange, but they really were codependent. And I could see them playing off each other and it made both of them unproductive, quite honestly, because they were getting both their emotional needs satisfied, and neither one of them was actually very productive.
Yeah. It's exhausting. It really is. I've had times like this where it's just like you get to a point where you're like, "Look, I've given you everything short of blood. Please leave me alone." Like, I cannot take it anymore. Like, you get to a point where you really do start to distance yourself and you realize, "I can't get any of my own work done because I'm doing your work." And that's just not a good place for people, and as a leader, you wanna recognize that. If you've got a needy person like that in your organization, you really do wanna try to get to the root cause. You really wanna try to understand where they're coming from and why they feel like they have to check in like that. Let them know it's okay to work independently. You expect them to have questions, but at some point, your expectation is that they'll have their questions answered and they'll begin to move forward and make decisions and complete the work that's been assigned them. So if it's really a competence issue where they just really are not capable of doing the job, then as a leader, you own that team. You own the
Yeah.
dynamics in that team. So you have to make sure that you're getting the right people in the right roles. And maybe that person just needs a different role so they can be more confident, so they can showcase their strong suits and their best skill sets, and they're not struggling to try to understand concepts and things that they just really don't have the background to do. That's okay too. But own it, take part in it, and understand where you are and why you're there. And then make some active steps to get into the right place. Don't just continue to exhaust everybody around you. You have to be more self aware than that. You really do.
Well, and as a leader, when you see somebody who is actually taking up too much of other people's time, you do have to intervene.
Mhm.
You've got to say, listen, you've got to be able to do this work on your own. You're going to everybody all the time. It's slowing the team down. People are trying to be accommodating. They're trying to be nice. I remember one individual, I was helping. It was early in my career. I was helping them a lot, and I had a lot to get done. And they came by one day, looked for help. I said, listen, I have to get this done. I can't help you right now. I have this to do today. I got to do it. And they resented that. They went off in a huff, like, huh, go
Mhm.
ahead. So you feel that way, huh? Because, they weren't getting their needs satisfied. So suddenly, after all this help, I was suddenly the bad guy.
Yeah.
And don't be surprised if you get that type of reaction, right? Because it's scary for them to have to do it on their own. Scary. And they're going to react.
Yeah. Very true. I think you're hitting on something that really is a good segue for the key takeaways
I think
because
so.
you set some boundaries with that person. You basically said,
Mhm.
"No. I have given you enough help. I have given you the things that you need. So you at this point should be
Mhm.
fully functional. And the fact that you're not is really it's no lack on my part. This is a problem that you have. And at this point, you have to hand it over to that person and let them solve it." So some of the tips for dealing with that person is to set some boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries is a good
Yeah.
way in any organization, in your personal life. It's just good to have some healthy boundaries so that people know what they can and can't do and how
Great
far
advice.
they can and cannot go. It's
Great
just really
advice.
important. Yeah. You want to try to understand where that person is coming from. So, what's the cause? And then remind them that they don't have to continue to check in with you as a leader and as the people that are on the team with them. You can set that standard and say, you don't have to tell us or ask us every single detail. Some things you have liberty to do on your own.
And
And
set a reverse and do a reverse, right? If they come, one of the boundaries is you just say, I'm not, I really can't help you, but how would you do that? And if you keep saying every time they come, what would you do to address that? They get it. They're
yeah,
not going to get the answer. They're not getting the help. They're going to have to figure it out.
right. Exactly. Because most of us have positions where we do have to figure things out on our own. We can't expect for somebody to give us every detail. So hone those skills of analytics and really starting to be able to solve and troubleshoot on your own. Like, make sure you're doing that because those are skill sets you can use in any position at any time.
Mhm.
So you don't want to enable people That's the last thing you wanna do with a needy personality type. I just love this picture of the guy, he's holding up
Love the
some
picture
money.
you found. I think that is just great, Tara. You just did a good job on these. That
Yeah,
is perfect, and that's it, they are benefiting emotionally from that support, and they're not gonna let go.
yeah. It is tough to shake them off, but you really do have to shake them off and set those boundaries and not enable them because it's really not healthy for you, and it's not healthy for them either.
And
I love that.
the sooner you put those boundaries in place, the better.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
wanna really recognize that, "Wow, this person's coming a little too much." Deal with it sooner rather than later. You're
Yes.
better off.
Yes, so true. I love that quote at the top as well. If you allow people to make more withdrawals than deposits in your life, you will be out of balance and in the negative. Know when to close the account. And
Yeah,
that's
perfect.
essentially saying,
Yeah.
don't enable them. Don't let people continue to take and take and take and never give anything back in return. And then let that person know that you want them to be self sufficient. You want them to be successful. Hold them accountable for what they're doing. So these are some ways that you can actually deal with that person. So your move is to empower the people in your organization. Be sure to set them up for success. Let them know that you want them to be successful and you're there to support them, to help them through any troubles or questions that they might have, but empower them to make decisions. Don't let them have to come to you for every single thing, for ask every single question, run every single thing by you before they do it. Empower people and let them know that you trust that they're going to do a good job with whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, just so absolutely true. Um, please join us next week. We're gonna be going over the hero personality. We're here every Wednesday at 3 PM live on LinkedIn. You can watch the shows after the fact. Very important to tune into this series. These people do to chew up a lot of productivity in every organization. You should be aware of these personality types. You should dig in a little bit on your own, spot them. The sooner you're able to deal with these people, the better. So we're doing the hero personality. If you've ever worked with these esteem seekers, they are so annoying, incredibly annoying. There aren't that many of them around, but when they're there, they're just incredibly destructive to the organization and the teamwork. So we hope to see you there. Anyway,
Yes.
thanks for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes. Bye for now.